So just in case you didn't know, a couple days ago, Austin City in Texas became a sanctuary city for gender-affirming care. Yep. So in this video, we have detransitioners, people who used to be trans, speaking against exposing kids to things like sex change surgery, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormone, you name it. For the love of God, take care of your kids.
Mercedes Chandler, if your name's been called, please come to the podium and state your name there.
Okay, hi, my name is Dixon. I live here in Austin's 3rd District, and I experienced extreme gender dysphoria from a young age, leading to me coming out as transgender at 13. I began begging for hormone blockers and testosterone, constantly slept and sometimes showered in unsafe chest binders, started self-harming and cutting body parts that made me look feminine, all before I started seeing a gender therapist as a mid-teen who helped move my family to accept my identity using the phrase, "Do you want a dead daughter or a living son?" After a routine fight and breakdown, I was finally allowed to start cross-sex hormones just after turning 17. One visit later, I rode the high of gender euphoria, finally getting to further the transition I had been working all of my life for. Months into starting T, I was diagnosed with a cardiovascular intolerance, having constant issues with heart regulation and passing out. I continued taking the testosterone, causing constant mood swings and later excruciating joint pain. Still, I believed these drugs were saving my life despite so clearly disabling it. A stray thought, ultimately asking, why am I so distressed in myself and how people perceive me, is what began to unravel my world at 19. I am now 21, still unpacking the trauma that made me want to cut off body parts, dealing with complications of steroid use like vaginal atrophy, extreme joint pain, and discomfort from permanently changing my sex characteristics, all for how I identified and was affirmed in my trauma from a child to adult. The legislation this item is against is not taking away rights or anatomy. It is regulating experimental medicine on children in a non-criminal way. Save every kid from the unnecessary hormone complication and lost body parts. Question why kids and adults are rejecting their sexes, and give these kids the therapeutic supports they need and deserve to love and accept themselves and bodies. Say no to Proposal 64. Thank you.
Hi, Disco.
Yes, please. Just state your name for the record.
Hey, y'all. My name is Grant Miller. I'm a graduating senior at UT Austin and a constituent of District 9. This is an issue that screams at my conscience. I was a trans woman identifying that way from June to November of last year before desisting. I used transition as a way to escape my long-standing fears of masculinity and to escape my own self-hatred. I was always a very soft, effeminate boy. I liked mermaids and tutus and My Little Pony and dressed up as a butterfly for Halloween. But when I hit puberty, I started to feel increasingly uncomfortable in my own skin. It didn't help that my mom and many of the women in her family suffered from sexual trauma. The priest, the stepdad, the uncle, the ex-boyfriend, all abusive men who left permanent generational scars on us. Over the years, my shoulders broadened, my voice deepened, and I began to tower over my petite mother. I believed that because I was becoming a man, I was becoming an abuser. Puberty is not a disease, but as a child, the idea of living in an adult body terrified me. I couldn't fathom walking the earth as a man. The word alone disgusted me. If I had been told as a child that I could simply pause puberty or change my sex to be a girl, I have no doubt I would have taken it up immediately. It took me so long to come to terms with myself and to claim my own version of masculinity and to fully embrace myself as a man. The culmination of my traumas led me to identify as a trans woman for half of last year and sign up to start hormones. My spiral of affirmation and self-destruction was itself traumatic, but I was an adult. That's not even what's at stake here. SB 14 limits so-called gender-affirming care for only minors. Make no mistake, your draft resolution encourages medical interventions for children. I speak against item 64 to defend these children, specifically boys and young men like myself, and the right to grow up without permanent adult intervention. You're medicalizing a time of life that is uncomfortable for all people, but especially so for neurodivergent, gender nonconforming, and same-sex attracted children like myself. If you put them on puberty blockers, if you put them on hormones, you're robbing them of the right to life. Children are smart, but not wise. They cannot consent. And we don't even let anyone under 18 get a tattoo. Why are we sterilizing them with experimental medicine? Doctors across the country are putting children on blockers and hormones. They are chopping off children's breasts, and they're even mutilating children with so-called bottom surgery. They are placing them on hard drugs and turning them into lifelong patients. Cha-ching! The doctors behind these castrations deserve jail, but Texas merely seeks to take away their licenses. There is no such thing as a gendered soul or a trans child because no child is born in the wrong body. Any belief that a child needs to change their body is an inherently religious one, and scientific consensus worldwide is finally turning against this new religion. I call upon you today to reject item 64 and thus make a bold step for progress. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Soren Aldacco. I'm an honors student at UT, a 7th-generation Texan, and a current constituent of District 3. I'm also a former trans kid. I began identifying as trans at age 11, was outed as trans at age 15, started testosterone at age 17, and underwent a double mastectomy that almost killed me a month after my 19th birthday. Less than half a year later, after experiencing no dearth of complications related to these treatments, I chose to make peace with my sex instead of fighting it. I now have one of the first lawsuits of its kind designed to hold the practitioners who transitioned me accountable. I was an autistic, gender nonconforming weird girl. I needed competent therapy and love, not drugs and plastic surgery. As I'm sure you know, this proposal is entirely ornamental. Given that SB 14 is not enforced criminally, and intentionally so, this proposal serves one purpose: to endorse experimental medicine that pathologizes gender nonconformity and teaches children to internalize sexist stereotypes instead of uprooting them. The science is not settled, and independent reviews like the UK's CAST review make this abundantly clear, despite what certain activists have to say. The AMA, the APA, and other organizations you've referenced in your proposal were founded to protect the practitioners behind this medicine, not the patients receiving it. And frankly, America's falling behind. The progressive countries that laid the foundation for gender-affirming care, think Finland, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, have started slamming on the brakes. I'm here to ask that you, like them, give it time. Let's encourage resilience instead of throwing around suicide against Samaritan's guidelines and insinuating that there is no other way. Where will you be in 20 years when the children who were shuttled down the gender-affirming pipeline by your hand, who would have likely otherwise grown up to be happy, healthy, and gay, end up depressed, sterilized, and medically enigmatic? Do not implicate yourselves in one of the largest medical scandals to date. Wait it out and listen to the science carefully. Say no to item 64. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Smith, and I live in the great state of Texas. One of the purposes of law is to protect the most vulnerable among us from harm. As a society, we have always recognized that children are not developmentally the same as adults. As such, our laws do not allow children to consent to sex with adults, to drinking, to smoking, to getting a tattoo, to driving a car or buying a gun. But somehow, in the past few years, we have all collectively lost our minds and decided that children are capable of consenting to sterilizing themselves for life and to having their breasts and genitals cut off and mutilated. I encourage you to read and listen to all of the leaked WPATH files, where the very doctors who are chemically castrating and genitally mutilating children are caught on video admitting that these children are not capable of understanding what they are consenting to. The president of WPATH, Marcy Bowers, is even on video admitting that 100% of little boys in Tanner stage 2, that's around age 11, who they've given puberty blockers to, are never able to achieve orgasm in adulthood. That's 100%. You can watch her say this on camera. Chemically castrating puberty blockers are not reversible. I encourage you to listen to the voices of the mutilated children, some of whom were here today, voices of people like Chloe Cole and Layla Jane, both who had double mastectomies when they were children, who are now in young adulthood suing the butchers who did this to them when they were kids. Every single country that has done a systematic medical review of the evidence has banned this barbarism against children, and we're going to follow in the footsteps of progressive countries like the UK, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, and we're going to ban it in all 50 states here in the US. The Hippocratic Oath for doctors says to first do no harm. It is a lie that sterilizing and mutilating children does no harm. In the words of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, let the lie come into the world, let it even prosper, but not through me. I urge the Austin City Council not to be on the wrong side of history on this, the greatest medical scandal and atrocity against children in our lifetime. Let the lie come into the world, let it even prosper, but not through Texas. Thank you.